Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with another video on the new content in update 3.1. Today we're going to be discussing the Black Power Battery, which turns into Nekron's Scythe. And I just want to give a quick preview for people who are following the channel. Pretty soon we're going to start to get into the actual stuff that you can do with the new content, because we've had enough time to mess around with it that we're starting to figure out, teams that we can use, maybe some Survivor stuff just as a little teaser.
Yeah, I'm totally excited about this gear, actually.
This is really cool. So getting right into the abilities, as you can already see right now in the video, but we're just going to walk you through them. We have Power Steal on basic attacks if HP is lower than 15%, and that starts at 21% and goes to 40% Power Steal. Going from start to finish. We have increased damage against frozen/stunned opponents, and that's 105% to 200% and then drain life on basic attacks if our HP is lower than 15%, and that starts at 21% drain life and goes to 40% when maxed out. There's a lot of percentages flying here. We'll also probably have this information in the description if you want to look at it yourself, and I mean, you're looking at it right now on screen. And we also have the evolved ability, which is KO an enemy to gain resurrect with HP on death, and that's once per match, and it starts off at 35% and ends at 65% when fully maxed out.
Yeah, 65% health when you resurrect is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that is a significant amount of health. That's like a really good kind of reliable revive.
And that spectacular is exactly the word I would use with this. To me, this is the gear that we've been waiting for ever since Cloak of Destiny came out, because this is only the second gear that can increase damage against a stunned opponent, but it also does it against frozen opponents.
Which is even better, because if you actually... Well, I mean, we're going to talk about this in a second. There's a lot to talk about with this gear, and a lot of theorizing that we can do, but frozen is actually a more consistent state to bring people in on, and it's easier to freeze somebody and then swap in. So
right, because you can freeze somebody even when they block a special.
Yeah, so it's a lot more reliable. Like, you can have like a freeze character that literally sets up somebody to swap in with this gear, and do that with a lot greater consistency than you can with stuns.
Right, and we're sort of alluding to it, but what we're talking about is Killer Frost. I either want the Killer Frost, and my preference is for Killer Frost Prime because she dampens power generation, but it is going to make her so much more important to be a teammate with somebody else carrying Nekron's Scythe to take advantage of this.
Yeah, and this is really interesting, because it's not as kind of directed as Cloak of Destiny is. It's not as specific.
Right, because Cloak of Destiny has its built-in stun ability, right?
Yeah.
Low percentage.
But this gear almost has three entirely separate abilities that both are like three separate sets of abilities. It has 4 total abilities, but 3 separate kind of paths that you could take when using this gear that each are good enough that you could build maybe a team, or at least definitely build a character up around it.
Right. No, the resurrect once. I have put 2 fourth world gear sets specifically for the resurrection with no regard for any of the other abilities.
Yeah, and this is a single gear that can do resurrect as long as you get a KO, which is really solid, because it's easier to get a KO than it would seem, considering how easily it gives it to you, right? Like, it seems like you should almost need to do something more than a KO to earn
especially since
65% resurrect.
Yeah, especially since you can do increased damage against a frozen or stunned opponent.
Yeah, so it's easier to get that KO in the first place. And so, like, as a coincidental reward to put this on somebody who's meant to be dealing damage, that is crazy all by itself.
Yeah. And so the third sort of class of abilities, which groups to the last 2, is that when your health is low, this is going to be the hard part, because getting to the low health, you can power steal on just basic attacks, not a combo ender, but just basic attacks.
Yeah.
Power steal and drain life. I mean, can you just hear Boss Solomon Grundy salivating in the background? If you could ever figure out a way to keep him at low health without losing more, like, say, for example, with Gingold Soda and Killer Croc Companion Gear, you stick this on him, the Nekron's Scythe.
For sure.
And, I mean, he's vulnerable to specials, but if you could figure out a way, like a rhythm with him, to be able to keep him like that, he would do a butt ton of damage. And I guess, all right, so you know what the problem is? We were talking about this earlier, and you mentioned this too, is that the problem is if you drain life, every once in a while you're fluctuating higher than 15%.
Yeah, so it's really easy. We're going to have to look at how that works. But it seems like if you're draining the life, you really are going to go just above 15% and then just below and just above and just below over and over again. And it's really easy to reach a point where you kind of don't come back. But the good news is that as long as whoever you're fighting is dealing enough damage to get you back under 15%, that power steal means that you're also draining power. So
Right.
you're basically, the revive makes you a really good tank if you're getting at least one KO. So it basically it lets you kind of bulk up your tank if your tank is actually participating in the fighting. And the 15% means that if your tank is close to death, you become a really kind of a powerhouse, where if you can whack the opponent a couple times, you can beef up your own power, you can take away their power, and you can get your health back up, so you can have that little kind of chunk left. So this is and really what you want to do here is figure out a way to make that 15% easy to get into and stay into. So like, you know, gears that boost your
said the
maximum
magic
health.
word. Yeah, you said the magic word of tank, right? Normally, I don't like gears that are a combination of offensive and defensive abilities, because, you know, I like to totally stack it one-sided. But the abilities here, even though it's both, each one of them is good enough potentially that I don't mind, because, you know, having the boosted damage on stun to me is enough of a single ability. If I had a gear that only had that ability,
Yeah.
I would find a way to put it on my team.
Oh yeah, and the great thing about it is, if you put that on your team, if you've got a character that's built up to deal an insane amount of damage and they get a KO with that, any character getting plus 65% health and a revive, so basically having that kind of one hit high damage shield, right?
Right. They become their own meat shield.
They're instantly a tank, right? They're a tank just by coincidence. Yeah. Adding 65% health to anybody with good base stats makes them a tank, whether or not they're geared up to be one in any other way. So if you have a character that just comes in, really slams somebody hard, right? Uses the ability for the plus 300% damage, and then gets a kill, they're instantly a tank just kind of by coincidence. So you almost have somebody fulfilling probably specialist if you want to deal as much damage as possible in a low number of hits. So you have basically whoever has this being a specialist, and if you play them correctly, just kind of a tank by coincidence.
Yeah, this is, and the reason why I said earlier that this is the gear that we've all been waiting for is that because no other gear has that ability to boost damage that high. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, in my mind, it's the same kind of building block that you get with a gear that boosts basic damage and increases the crit chance of basic damage. We have multiple gears that do that.
Yeah.
And that's made a huge difference in how people design a team loadout, because you can either stack them all on the same character, or you can have multiple characters that can do a lot of basic damage. You don't have to be limited to just one. And so the obvious thing would be, say, an Earth 2 team.
Yeah.
Where if you've got Flash, everybody has a chance to stun on tag in. Well, only one person could take advantage of that in the same way. And now everybody, well, not everybody, 2 out of your 3 team members can do that and have a basic damage deal that does it, or a couple of specialists that do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
this is great.
Yeah, the bottom line is that the Cloak of Destiny is one of the best gears in the game. Even after Tantu Totem Master's Death Card, if you just want to hit somebody really, really hard, Cloak of Destiny is at near the top of your list, right, with Batgirl or
Luchador
Bane. Yeah, and just for coming in, really almost guaranteeing a KO, and if you have the splash damage, really
League of Assassin's Knives, yeah,
really kind of tenderizing the entire enemy team. And this is basically just a way to do one more of that. So you can have, Master's Death Cart, and you can have Tantu Totem on a character still, and you can have that Batgirl, and now you can also have Luchador Bane, right? You can kind of have, I would say, the 3 kind of definitive ways to hit really, really hard.
Yeah,
all stacked up on one team if you wanted.
Right, so you can have a Batgirl and a Luchador Bane team.
Yeah. And
have them both alternating to just wipe out a team. And you know what, too? What it means is that you're not actually stuck with Luchador Bane. I mean, because of Tantu Totem, spoiler, this is not the team that I was thinking of, but this is another team that is going to be really good in a demo. Is a Batgirl team that's geared towards splash damage on 1, that has Luchador Bane that's geared towards splash damage on 2, and if you give each of them one of Cloak of Destiny, and Nekron's Scythe, they're both going to do a huge amount of splash damage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're going to have such quick MP online battles, and the only thing stopping you, Survivor, is that the disabled special ones and special twos that just appear at different levels.
That's
and
true.
That the damage on, or sorry, the health on each of the Survivor opponents just goes up so high that you won't be able to do a one hit KO or one special KO.
Yeah, so this gear is really exciting for a number of reasons, and I think, you know, even opens up the field a little bit more, as we were talking about with Killer Frost, where you're not actually kind of beholden to Luchador Bane or Batgirl the same way if you want a more kind of guaranteed damage source. With Killer Frost, it really opens up your team, and of course you do have to pick two characters based on that, but that kind of 1-2 punch is definitely going to hit really hard, and I think that's more than good enough to be kind of a definitive multiplayer grinding team.
Yeah, I haven't been so excited about a piece of gear since Tantu Totem.
Yeah, this is really cool. I think one of the really good things about gear is that it does a great job of leveraging a ton of other stuff, where a new character can only interact with other characters in so many ways, and they tend not to put too many support characters, or their new support characters tend to fall into a certain team type, right? Where you have like a Blackest Night character or something like that, and not just like a general support character, because those tends to be like, you know, bronzes and silvers mostly. So when you have a gear, what a gear is it's basically like a really cheap support character almost, because you can apply it. It's 1/9 of your total gear loadout, right, on whatever team you have, and it lets you put whatever characters you want in both the person holding it, but also in all the other supporting slots. So having a gear that does something really interesting opens up a ton of customizability that really makes use of the kind of roster that they already have in place. So I think gears in a lot of ways are more exciting than new characters. Because they're so much more versatile. Because the most you can do with a new character is put 3 gears on them and put them in a team with 2 other people who are each geared out their own way. And you know, there's only so many combinations for that. But if you have any gear, you can, one gear is part of a set of 3, which is, you know, part of a team of 3 characters, each with their own gear. It feels a lot more versatile in its use.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can't find anything to disagree with there. So excited.
Yes. I think that's enough kind of excited rambling, and I hope at this point, if you weren't initially as excited as we are, you've kind of reached a point where you are also thinking about the best ways to implement this. If you have any cool ideas for that, I think it would be great if you left them in the comments for us. We're always looking for stuff that we've missed, for cool things to maybe try out, and I think we're really giddy for this new one, so I think we'll be a little more generous with people's ideas. We'll definitely be giving a lot of stuff a try in the coming days to see what the best thing we can do with this gear is.
And we'll let you know if you happen to come upon the one that I have already planned, if you happen to have the exact same loadout that I planned, because it should be, well, not that it should be obvious, but it's very closely related to we've already done before and not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be pretty spectacular.
I think what we can say is that if we catch it and you